I was saying in the last hour of the program that the reason Christians are being targeted by ravaging gunmen is because we have a government and we have a media in this country that has pretty much put a target on the backs of Christians. I guess we could all walk around with a giant cross on our backs so people could identify us, and then all the better to kill us. And a lot of people out there may disagree with that, but if I listen to the previous stories about shootings around the country, you always hear that it's right wing talk radio, or it's right wingers on the internet. It's all of these things that contribute to shootings that people supposedly do. So therefore, I am just turning the tables and saying I think that media, just as media has been responsible along with the Obama administration for the attacks on police officers that we've seen growing around this country. This is from a reliable source. Happened to hear this on Fox News this morning. Just to give you an idea of how vituperative, you can go look that one up, media has become in their dealings with Christians. Well, think about this. I was talking with a friend the other day about Franklin Graham. Now, when I was a kid growing up, Franklin Graham's father was really the Protestant version of a pope. And he filled stadiums, and he spoke all over the world and saved souls and prayed with presidents, and he was just considered to be, he was an, if you wanted to define virtue in this country, he was a virtuous man. And even media treated him with deference. They don't do that with his son. And yet his son doesn't believe anything that's different than his father believed. His son doesn't say anything that his father didn't say. And yet Franklin Graham is treated as if he's some sort of a cancer by the media, like a leper. That's how they treat him. And when he one time said on a television show he wasn't sure if President Obama was actually a Christian, media demanded that he apologize for what he said. And that went on for days. And Franklin Graham being, pastor, he couldn't really say, hey, go jump off a cliff. I can, and that's what I would have told them in that situation. So we've seen this complete inversion in American life. And what used to be considered, well, you didn't want people to think that someone in your family, that you'd raised them wrong because of the way they grew up and then the sexual mores that they had. We used to look at that even as insanity. But today, it's like that's praised. That's called being brave. But if you're a Tim Tebow, you're mocked because you actually have Christian faith. And, for instance, he's saving himself for marriage. All of these things that we used to respect in this country, since we've gone to the pagan culture, what really has media upset right now, their hero, the Pope, Roman Pope, that would be Francis, Bishop of Rome to some people, made an appearance in the United States last week, and he talked about global warming, and he talked about redistribution of wealth, and he talked about illegal immigration, and all of these things near and dear to a media that currently plays for just one side. And yet, when he did talk about things such as religious freedom, religious liberty, they kind of downplayed that. Then it was discovered that Pope Francis had a meeting with Kim Davis. Now, the media doesn't like her. She's, if you look at Kim Davis's backstory, somebody said to me the other day who's Roman Catholic, I don't think the Pope should meet with a woman like that. She's been married 4 times. She does have somewhat of a dumpy look. I'm not criticizing her for that. I look in the mirror every day too. So I'm just saying she's not what you'd call. She doesn't have the high cheekbones. She's not walking around in as a bikini model or anything like that. And because of that, when she refused to do same-sex weddings, even though she had begged her state legislature to give her an out and allow people in the office, her deputies, to take care of those marriages, and no one listened to her. Media said that she was just mean-spirited and she was nasty and homophobic, and that means she's a bigot and she shouldn't be allowed to be partaking in public life. And they were all happy when she was locked up in jail for a week. And then they discovered she had a meeting with Pope Francis. Now, this is a reporter at Fox News by the name of Courtney Walsh. Courtney Walsh giving us a little bit of detail on this.
Vatican spokesman Father Lombardi tried to limit the dust-up caused when Kentucky clerk Kim Davis spoke publicly of how the Pope had told her to stay strong when they met in D.C. during the Pope's visit last week. The Pope did not know the details of Davis, who was jailed briefly for refusing to issue same-sex marriage licenses and for not allowing her subordinates to do so either.
La questione di Kim Davis.
The meeting should not have been considered a form of support, added Lombardi. On the flight back to Rome, the Pope said conscientious objection is a human right, but added he was not aware of the specific cases in the U.S. At the Vatican, Courtney Walsh, Fox News Radio.
You know, if you call yourself a vicar of Christ, stop lying. I'm going to be as blunt as I can about that. Because just a couple of days ago, the Vatican said, yes, we chose her. The Vatican chose her. And now the Vatican's saying, well, you know, the Pope's getting beat up by American media and liberals all over the world. Oh, gee willikers. We don't want that to happen. No, we want the liberals to love him. So, gee, well, we didn't know who she was. I mean, she just showed up at the back door. The Pope thought she was hungry. He told her to come in for a bite to eat, and wouldn't you know it, she gave him a big hug, and he asked her to pray, and then he gave her a couple of rosaries because she said her parents were Catholic, and oh, gosh, I mean, you know, we allow people in the back door all the time. I mean, you know, they get past security. What are you going to do about it? I am so disgusted by that. But what's happened is there was some homosexual writing. He claims to be a Christian. He was writing at the website Pathos the other day saying that the Pope must have been forced to do this. What'd they do? Hold him down on the floor and tickle him until he said uncle? I don't know how he'd say that as a Spanish-speaking Argentinian, but you get that impression. And now media is trying to like say, well, you know, must have been some mistake here. So the Vatican's saying, yeah, that's the ticket. It was a mistake. Yeah. 9:13. Bill Colley with you on Top Story 57, and you're on the air on Top Story on News Radio 1310 KLIX and newsradio1310.com.
Yeah, good morning, Bill. There's a couple stories that you talked about. You know, the Common Core thing, as Pastor Sharam Hadian pointed out at the Canyon Crest the other night, Common Core is teaching that Allah is the creator. And so you can teach about Islam in the Common Core, but you can't teach anything about Christianity or mention Jesus. That's one thing. The other thing, as soon as I heard about this shooting, it reminded me that he's singled out Christians and shot them dead, was the fact that, you know, obviously he's either an atheist or he's been recruited by ISIS, or, you know, or in the Islam that they get their 72 virgins if they become a martyr. And so he didn't try to surrender. He's going to fight it out. And but in addition to that, Pastor Sharam Hadian pointed out, showed billboards all over the country where they're recruiting, and why Islam, and it's got toll-free number and all this kind of stuff, internet access. So these people are recruiting people that are maybe dissatisfied with Christianity or have no religion at all, and they want to become a folk hero, so to speak. And that may be one of the motivations. But it all goes back to 1962, 63, when we took prayer and Bible reading out of our public schools, and we've had this moral abyss ever since.
I do thank you for the call, and I've always argued that what we could do, you know, you could have an atheist in class and just tell them, well, take a moment of silence. Think about your upcoming test. You know, just relax for a minute. Everyone else is going to say a prayer for a minute. And if you're of a different faith, well, then pray to whatever you pray to. Yet courts won't even allow that. But that's what amazes me, is that, and most parents, I mean, you know, other than the really nasty liberal atheists who are just trying to destroy this country, they would object. Even if you said, well, wait a minute, your kid can, you know, think about that upcoming geometry exam and, you know, get a minute to clear his head. No, we don't want that. No, respecting religion. Well, you know what? I don't have a problem with respecting religion. I think the government said we weren't going to establish a national religion. But respecting, it's okay with me. 9:16, Bill Colley with you on Top Story on News Radio 1310 KLIX and newsradio1310.com, 57. So I think this is part of the reason we're seeing these attacks on Christians, such as yesterday. Daily Signal. State takes legal action to seize $135,000 from bakers who refused to make cake for a lesbian couple. Now, what's my tie-in? Well, listen to this first sentence. The agency that ordered Aaron and Melissa Klein to pay $135,000 in damages for refusing to bake a cake for a same-sex couple began the legal process last week to seize the money the Oregon bakers are refusing to pay. What state are they from again? From Oregon. This story has been all over every newscast, radio and television in Oregon. It has been in every newspaper in Oregon. It is plastered all over websites in Oregon. Bloggers are writing about how hateful and spiteful these Klein Christians are because they would not bake a cake for Sally and Susie or whatever their names were, and they made Sally and Susie cry. Therefore, we have to ensure we bankrupt them. Then they can go live in a cave somewhere with the other lepers. That's what's going on. So you get some nutcase who's running around this college campus, and he's thinking, Christians are mean to people who have strange sexual practices. Therefore, I must kill the Christians and win favor. The writer goes on to say, and this is actually you're gonna find this one to just be mystifying as I did. Here's a quote. Our agency has docketed the judgment and is exploring collection options. That from Charlie Burr, communications director for the agency. He told that to the Daily Signal. He went on to say they are entitled to a full and fair review of the case, but do not have the right to disregard a legally binding order. What's a full and fair review? Well, you go back to the same agency and they slam the door in your face. There you go. But at least, you can say, well, we allowed them to come down to the office and then slam the door in their face and broke their noses. Now, I've got this too as well, though, on page 2 of this. Quote, we didn't have a choice in how this was prosecuted, unquote. Rachel Bowman Cryer said, quote, we didn't have a choice in the fine. If we had been given the option, we probably would have said, just apologize, just say you're sorry and go away, unquote. Her wife, Laurel, added, quote, we're not asking for anything. We've never asked for a penny from anybody, unquote. So they're shocked, too, that these people's lives are going to be ruined. They're going to be bankrupted because they wouldn't bake the dang cake. Go down the street. Someone else will sell you your cake, for crying out loud, or bake your own. Unless, of course, and the argument is, they're not mannish. They're just like other women. So therefore, you should be able to bake a cake because most women I know are pretty good at that. Heck, I can do it if I have the time. I'm not saying it's my expertise or my specialty, but I could. So go buy a cake somewhere else. You brought us to this point. They don't want money, but what they wanted to do was humiliate the Christians. That's what this was all about. And this is now festering in this country. It's like a pus-filled sack, and it's growing. And it's encouraging people like this man Mercer to decide to go out to a college campus and ask people if they're Christians, and if they are, to blow their brains out. And as I said in the last hour, I hold media responsible. I hold the Obama White House responsible, the Justice Department responsible, and every dang lefty in this country, you've got blood on your hands. 57, 20 minutes after 9 o'clock. Bill Colley with you on Top Story on News Radio 1310, KLIX, and newsradio1310.com. Cheryl Atkinson, who used to be an employee of CBS News and then left because she just got fed up with the extreme left-wing bias, is launching a new TV program this weekend, and she's got a story. She's going to in her premiere show do a story about how refugees can have a very negative impact on a small community. Details ahead.